So I've been thinking a lot lately about my unconscious life and where I stand with myself, basically, where my self-esteem is and how I view myself. I've been a larger person pretty much my whole life. I was not very large as a child, but at some point it crossed over and now I became who I saw myself to be, which is, fat, like I called myself. And that usually came at school in the form of, being directly called fat or just not being picked for the team because you're not going to run as fast as the rest of the kids. And all that's fine. Like, yeah, bullying is just going to happen when you're a child, no matter what you look like or who you are. And I'm not saying that's right, but it's just what's going to happen. The problem is that all of these things around my size became my identity. And the things that I would tell myself are much, much harsher than anything that anyone has ever said to me. Just the sheer amount of times I've called myself fat in various forms are just staggering. And up until recently, I didn't notice that I was doing that. Like, it's a very unconscious thing for me to do. And the same thing goes with calling myself stupid or lazy even. These are just things that I was telling myself on a very regular basis without thought, just an automatic response to a situation or how I was feeling. And look, I can thrive on shame, but only if it's from an external source. Because really, if somebody calls me fat, and especially if I don't know them, like, I don't care. I'm old enough now to not really take the opinions of others in that area at all. Like, it just doesn't matter to me. But all of the shame has been unconsciously internalized. Yes, I've had people throughout my life call me fat or lazy or stupid. But honestly, I find that most people are generally nice. Even like the people who don't like me don't tell me to my face these things. And personally, I'm not one of those people that will fall into like talking about how you look, how much you weigh, the things like that. What I personally do is try to hold people accountable for what they say versus what they do. So if you say something and you don't do the thing you're going to say, I will absolutely call you out for that, because I want people to call me out for that. I have that happen to me all the time. That's why I have good friends who, if I say something, they'll either push back or they will say like, "Are you sure?" Just things like this. Like, it makes you think, it makes you step back and make your words match your intention. So I sit here and I wonder, how did I let my self-esteem get so low that I can talk so harshly about myself without any repercussions? And you know what? I think it's because not once in my life have I stopped to ask, do I actually believe this? Am I not worthy of accepting myself as I am? Is putting others before yourself a sign of caring, or is it another form of hiding? And I really hate to think that if you asked me this, and even a year ago, that any of these questions would have even struck a chord with me, if they would have resonated in any sort of fashion. And I don't really think so, because I feel that I've been so entrenched in my low self-esteem for so long that there was no real way to distinguish who I thought I was versus who I really am. So I guess what really happened was I became those things that I was telling myself. That's why my self-esteem was so low, because when I was telling myself that I was fat, I stayed fat. It was a story to keep me in line with those values that I held so closely. And why did I even identify as this person in the first place? What, to beat the odds? To prove other people wrong? To prove myself wrong? And really, I'm not going to find an answer to any of these questions. I could keep asking myself questions all day long, but at the end of the day, all I really did was learn how to berate myself and think it was normal. So since I became aware of this low self-esteem trench that I found myself in, I asked myself, could I have lost weight and retained the weight loss permanently? Would I be or have more success if I didn't think I was stupid or lazy? And I think that the simple fact is yes. Just from the simple fact that I didn't think these things would mean that any amount of success would have been success. It wouldn't have been taken away from me. It would have been stripped away from me because my internalized thoughts would not have taken it away from me. And that's the entire problem, is that I've had success. I've lost weight. I got down to 282 pounds from 410 pounds for a good extended period. But the problem is that I was still telling myself I was this fat person. I was still berating myself, making sure that I knew that I wasn't good enough to keep that weight off, that I had to be the person who I thought I was. And I knew I was accomplished. I had moments of recognition of, yes, I feel great. I feel much better. I can look at the mirror and I don't feel like such a piece of shit. People were calling me Skinny Reed, which was really weird because I still weighed 282. Like, that was a big thing. Was I saw 282 on the scale. I looked in the mirror. Those two things didn't match up for me in my head because I knew 282 is still really big. But I didn't see that the way I felt and the way I looked, it didn't matter what the number said. I should have gone with a ladder and not just beat myself up about it. But that's not what happened. And that old saying, Rome wasn't built in a day. It took me a long time to lose weight, but it also took me a long time to gain weight. I gained back up to 400 pounds again eventually. I didn't feel like I deserved to be successful in my health and my weight loss. I felt like I deserved to be right where I was at 400 pounds. And so, I stayed there for a while. So here I am now, 36 and stagnant, finally learning lessons I wish I would have learned a decade ago. But that's not the reality, and I am grateful for the understanding that I have right now. So how do we go about breaking this negative pattern? The first thing that I'm going to do is I will question that voice inside my head that tells me I'm fat, that there's no point in doing this, that I'm stupid, and so on and so on and so on. The nagging, incessant voice in my head that tells me that I'm not good enough. And the next thing I'll do is correct that thought. And the only way I can do that is by accepting myself as I am in this moment. I can correct the thought as soon as I figure out that it's happening. And then the next thing I need to do is accept who I am so I can move forward with my life. And I need to do that without judgment, no self-deprecation, nothing. I need to accept who I am at this moment and just move forward. And all of this is in an attempt to build myself back up, to bring my self-esteem back from way down here to way up here. I don't need to be an egotistical asshole. I don't need that. I just need to be able to accept myself for who I am. I know that I'm worthy of these things that I want. I'm worthy of love. I'm worthy of success. I know these things inherently, but I've been telling myself all these things for so long, it makes me feel like that I'm just not. I just need to learn better self-acceptance. I also need to learn how to change that thought pattern in my head so I can get out of that low self-esteem trench. And I really want to know that if you've been through this, like, what are some ways that you've done this throughout your life? And I'm doing that selfishly for me because I want to know. Like, I want to know tactics and things that you do to make yourself feel better, to get yourself out of that trench. But I also want to know so that people who find this video can read what you've done, see what I've done, to be able to get myself out of these things, so that they can also feel better about themselves. Because at the end of the day, there's so many people out there that are lonely, that are just going through it, and they don't have any other outlet to change themselves. So this also helps those people who want to find that change, to be better for themselves. I know that I've been scared and anxious, and I feel like I don't really know who I am at times. But the more I work on it, the more relief that I'm finding. And I hope that you can find the relief too. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you'd like to see more, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, share the video, and I'll see you in the next one.